One of the hardest things when you're decluttering is keeping your momentum strong. Today, we're going to talk about the 10 things you can do to keep your momentum going.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here are your hosts, Ingrid Jansen and Leslie Spellman.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Leslie.
If you're new to the Declutter Hub podcast, you're so welcome. What you'll find is that we try and find a fun factor in the serious business of decluttering. And if you've been here for a while, you know exactly what we mean. So thank you so much for listening.
If you'd like to get involved in conversations relating to this podcast, it all takes place in our Facebook group. So come and join our lovely, warm, supportive community. To find the Facebook group, go to declutterhub.com/group to find out more. Or you can search for the Declutter Hub community on Facebook.
Well, Leslie, here we are with our next brand new podcast. And we're going to talk about keeping momentum. And it's one that we get asked about a lot, isn't it? But before we do, I think we need to talk about a review that has come in.
Yes. Talk about review. Go on, read it out. I know how much you love to read these things out, Ingrid.
I know.
I can't steal your thunder.
It says, hello, ladies. I'm in the US and I have a great roster of about 5 home and organization podcasters. And now you guys are great. My approach as a personal trainer is so similar in stressing the emotional component that holds us back from lifelong changes and that everything must stand up to real life. I'm also amused at how sometimes it takes me a few minutes to understand the words through your accents. It's good. It makes me listen harder. Your personality and rapport is also engaging. In my own decluttering journey, there has been so much process and learning in the past 4 or 5 years, but much more to go. Info and knowledge is not the problem. It's more deep-seated issues where emotions live. Now that I'm 50 and my son is 16, I'm feeling more pressure to want my space as I envision it, while simultaneously feeling so emotional through perimenopause, adult ADHD, and life. I know we can talk for days about these kinds of topics, and I enjoy going back to all of your older podcasts.
Oh, that's so nice. That was via email. So nice to get an email explaining who you are and what you're feeling and what you're going through and your own journey and explaining a little bit about that. And we're delighted to be part of that decluttering journey. So we completely feel you and thank you so much for sharing. You know, it's funny you talk about our accents because when we first started podcasting, we were like, no one's going to even understand the kind of Dutch person and a person from the north of England who talks at a rate of knots, to be fair. At least Ingrid slows down. I can get a little bit kind of fast, as you all know, because we didn't think that anybody would be able to understand us really, did we? But clearly they do, because we never get anybody who says, slow down, do we, Ingrid? Never.
I know. I think that's one of the things we were worried about the most 269 episodes ago. Like, wow, actually, when you say this number now, Leslie, it's kind of mind-boggling, isn't it, really? But yeah, we were like, oh my God, can somebody actually understand what we're saying? You know, apart from the fact that we both speak quite fast, we both have accents, and we use all this English terminology that people all over the world might think, I don't know what they're talking about, but we got there, didn't we? And we have such a lovely, lovely following all over the world. And we appreciate each and every one of you so much listening in, week out, sending us comments, sending us reviews. It's absolutely fab. So thank you so much for your email.
Yes. So today we're talking about momentum. It's quite interesting because a few podcasts ago we did one on time, and this is kind of the next natural progression, isn't it, really? Which is why we wanted to do one on momentum. And we thought that we'd make it a 10 things.
I know.
Ingrid, you don't sound as excited today about the 10 things.
No,
it's a different type of 10 things, right?
Yeah, it's very different. And when you suggested, I was like, that's actually a really good idea. And you came up with a tremendous list. So I'm all in. See.
Good. Well, shall we get started with item number 1 on our 10 things to keep your momentum going?
Yes. And that is planning. Before you kind of dive into those cupboards and those drawers and those rooms, you have to make a plan. That's number 1 on the list. So important.
The thing is, if you don't make a plan, so part of the planning is kind of getting all your stuff together, right? Getting your bin bags together, getting your cleaning stuff together, getting your hoover, making sure that you've got all of the things that you need to execute on this decluttering project that you're doing. And if you don't have those things, it sort of gets annoying straight away. As soon as you get there, you're like, oh, I've got to go downstairs and grab the bags and go grab the cleaning stuff. And they're all things that give you slightly negative emotions and make you feel that it's a bit of a pain to do. And so it's so important to have all that thing done before you even get started, so nothing can stop you in your tracks, which is basically what momentum is all about, right?
Exactly. Because we don't want you to get cracking and then every 5 minutes abandon what you're doing to get something else that you forgot. Because the thing is, when you go out of the area or room that you're working, something else might catch your eye and you're going to get sidetracked. And that is like not good for what you're doing, because then you end up doing 45 minutes somewhere else. You're like, oh, I was actually doing this. I completely forgot about it. So when you plan, you've got less opportunities to get sidetracked, and which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, you love a plan, don't you, Ingrid?
I do. I like it.
Yeah, I'm more of a jumping in person, not on decluttering, obviously, because that's not allowed, because we're experts in this matter. But generally, I do like to jump in without. Do I jump in without a plan? Is that fair? More than you, right?
Yeah. If you compare between the two of us, I would have kind of have thought ahead and kind of, do pros and cons. And you're like, what sounds like a good idea? Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be fair, Leslie, 9 out of 10 times, it is really a good idea. And you have to convince me to come on board.
Well, I've got you to do all the planning, so I don't need to do that myself, right? That's basically the way that it works. I'm allowed to be like that and not to have to do the boring stuff because you do all that. So let's go to number 2 on our list of things that you need to do to keep momentum going. And this is all about goals. Now, you know how much we love a goal in the Declutter Hub. But before we start on any decluttering project, we absolutely need to think about what our big picture goal is. And so if it's your bathroom, it's your bedroom, if it's your kitchen, why do you want to declutter this room? What is your why? What is your big picture goal? And it can be things like, I want to feel calmer. I want to be less stressed in the morning. I want the cleaning to be easier. That would be your big picture goal in individual rooms. And so you can have a big picture goal for your entire house, for your whole decluttering journey. But then you can also have a big picture goal room by room as well, can't you, Ingrid?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's really important to have that firmly in mind, because that will keep you motivated to do the next step. And we're not saying that because you set the big picture goal is really big, it's unachievable, we're going to have to break down this goal into small, manageable chunks. But you have to know, what am I working towards? What's my light at the end of the tunnel? The big why I'm doing this. I want to have people over and I want to enjoy a meal at the table. I want my grandchild to stay in my spare bedroom. I love crafting, but my craft room is really full and I can't do it. And I would love to go back to enjoying my crafting again. Number 3 is you need to figure out what your small, manageable goals are. How are you going to get to the end of that big picture goal? You can only do that by breaking it down into small, manageable chunks.
Yes, small, manageable chunks. Why is it such a mouthful? But that's definitely number 3. So when you're thinking about your goals, and do spend some time thinking about what that is, because it's all part of the momentum, because you have to keep reminding yourself of your progress. And that's what sort of drives the momentum. So they work kind of cohesively together. Big picture goal is the thing that you're constantly, when it's hard, when the going gets tough, you're going to focus on your big picture goal all the time. And accountability and progress is going to be managed by your small, manageable chunk goals. So it's so important to understand the difference between those two. Number 4 on our list, Ingrid.
Yes, you need to understand your own energy levels. Everybody's got different pulls on their time, pulls in their life, things they need to do, but also everybody's got different energy levels. Some people are better in the morning, some people in the afternoon, some people in the evening. It depends on when you work, when you sleep, on your own life. Are you a person that needs to take medication in the morning? So that first hour of the day, you're just kind of starting up and warming up, and you can't do a decluttering thing. But maybe like, what, actually after I've had a cup of tea, and I'm useless before breakfast. Don't really ask me to do anything before breakfast.
When are you useful?
I think I'm always quite all right at the end of the morning.
I'm literally joking.
Oh.
You're not supposed to reply when I say, when are you not useless? You don't have to justify it. It was a joke. Oh. You're very useful all of the time, but I don't like to see before 9 o'clock in the morning.
I know. Agreed.
Because
me neither.
Exactly. So yeah, no, you're right. I'm sorry I rudely interrupted you, Ingrid. It's so important to understand your own energy level, because a lot of people, by their own admission, are very all or nothing when it comes to decluttering. And that's a very dangerous place to be, because that will zap your energy. It will make you stop earlier than you wanted to, and it will make you not continue that cyclical process of going around and doing another decluttering project tomorrow or next week. And so it's so important to recognize your own ability to do these things based on the things that we've spoken about, that kind of pull from our energy and go, you know what, half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 5 minutes, whatever that is a sensible amount of time for me. Yeah. You have to be realistic, don't you, Ingrid? Yeah. And honestly, it's one of the biggest things. Don't get sort of pulled into something and go, oh, well, I'll just keep on going. I'll keep on going. Break it down to a manageable chunk. And then when you've got to the end of it, unless there's a very good reason, stop, have a break, and then see whether you want to continue. And if you do, and you've still got that energy, fantastic. But don't, if you start out big, then you're going to feel like you've failed because you've not got all the way to the end of it, right?
Yeah. You know what, Leslie? I had a throwback in my memory to our challenge back in September, right? Because we had one of our challengers, she's like super enthusiastic. She was doing really well. And we said very clearly at the start of our challenge, we're going to give you a small piece of homework every day that maybe 15, 20 minutes, hopefully, maybe sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit shorter. Do that and don't overdo it. And she absolutely was like, I'm loving this. I'm so excited. And she went, woo, and she did everything in her kitchen on day one and everything in her bathroom on day two. And then kind of posted in a pop-up Facebook group like, I think I have now exactly fallen in the trap that Leslie and Ingrid warned me against, that the thing I shouldn't do, because I indeed couldn't finish it. I've now got 2 rooms with chaos. And she said, I think I need to listen to what you're saying. So for her, it was a lesson that she needed to learn, wasn't it?
It's hard, though. It is hard when you're enthusiastic and you want to get the job done. So this is not easy, which is why we're doing a podcast on it, to explain some of the things that you can do to keep that momentum going. This is not easy.
I know.
Because if you're enthusiastic and you want to go hell for leather, I'd fall into that trap in other things in my life as well. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, just let's get the job done. And then the next day you're completely exhausted. Yeah. And you don't realize it until after you've finished, do you? That's the problem. Yeah. You feel like you've still got that energy. And it's only when you're finished that you go, I'm absolutely wiped out now. Because the adrenaline keeps you going while you're doing it. And then all of a sudden you're like, like dead on the sofa, aren't you? You know what I mean? And you won't come back and you're like, well, that was exhausting. I'm not doing that again. And that's what we want to avoid, isn't it?
Exactly. Let's do number 5 then of our 10 ways to keep your momentum going. And then, we can have a little break after that. But we wanted to do one more, and that is take a before picture. So when you're planning on doing something, a drawer, a cupboard, a box, a bag, whatever it is, snap a before picture.
I think it's really important to think about these things that we've spoken about, your big picture goal, your small manageable chunk goal. Write it down. If you're a list maker, write these things down. Write down what you want to achieve. If you're a checklist person, write it down on a list. And definitely take a before picture, because it's so important and so inspiring and motivational to see how far you've come. Yeah. And I think that in the flurry of activity of getting started, we forget to do it, don't we? Yeah. And another reason why we don't do it is we don't really feel like we want to be reminded of what it was like before, because sometimes we can feel a little bit ashamed or embarrassed about that. And we don't want to kind of capture that moment. But actually, when you get to the end of the decluttering project, it's fantastic to be able to look back on that. But it's hard. So if in doubt, take a picture. You can always delete it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You can always delete it. It's just the picture and it just needs to be private. So if you're the kind of person that is motivated by other people, then it's brilliant to share it in your family, share it in the Facebook group, share it wherever you want to share it. If that's something that motivates you, that sense of community. But you can also keep it private just the same. You know what I mean? You don't have to share if that's not your want.
Yeah. We just know from experience in our membership that the members who take before, middle, during, after pictures, they get such a sense of accomplishment. And it's so good for other people as well to see your progress so they can cheer you on and maybe drop an idea here or there. And those before pictures really, it's so good to see what happened before and where am I now? And that's a great motivator, but it's hard. It's not easy, especially in the beginning, because you don't want to be confronted probably with the mess and the clutter. But trust us, it's really, really helpful to keep your own momentum going.
One of the things that I've never done, it's kind of a similar thing, but for us, because we're not kind of doing much decluttering. Well, we are, but we don't. That's not what we need to map progress against. Is it would be great to go back to episode 2 of the podcast and then compare it to episode 269 and see how far we've come with that and how different it is.
I'm going to write that on my list, Leslie. I'm going to write it on my list.
Are you going to do it?
Yeah, I'm going to write it down.
I'm a bit scared because I just feel like it might be a bit cringe. Do you not think? You think it'd be cringy?
We had no idea what we were doing, Leslie. We kind of just randomly started the podcast and thought, well, we love chatting. Let's just do it.
I'm sure we were probably very sort of prim and proper. Maybe not.
I don't know.
Should we do it? We should listen to it together. That'll be fun.
Yeah, that we should definitely
not like a watch party, like a listen party.
Listen party. Right. Okay. Well, we're getting all delirious here. Let's go for a break because we've got 5 more other things to go to, Leslie. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to your 10 ways to keep momentum when decluttering. We've done 5 before the break. We're back with number 6. And that is a very important one because you need to recognize in yourself when you have decision fatigue. Leslie, can you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, decision fatigue is when you're so overwhelmed with making decisions, which is what decluttering is all about. Every item that comes into your path, you have to make a decision whether or not you're going to keep that or you're going to let it go. And if that's not something that you're used to doing or that you find very difficult or very emotional, then you can very quickly get decision fatigue. And what then happens is you start to get fed up of the process and start to make decisions that you're not in control of. And so often we see, if we're at the end of a session with a client, quite often we'll see people start going, oh, just throw it away, just throw it away, just throw it away. And we're like, that's strange because that's kind of shifting the pattern of behavior that we've seen for a few hours today. And so that's when we'll wrap up a session because that's where decision fatigue is kicking in. And so it's easy for us to see it because we're professionals and we can see that pattern of decision making, but you need to recognize that pattern in yourself. If you look at something and you're unsure about a decision or you're starting to feel that the decisions are getting more difficult to make, leave it down and start again another day.
Yeah.
So important, right, Ingrid?
Yeah. And I think that's also why we keep saying over and over and over again, break up that decluttering project, keep it small, just do one cupboard, one drawer, because then the decisions still feel like manageable. But if you then go do another drawer, and you tire yourself out and your energy is low and you forget to drink some water or have a little snack or whatever, and then it becomes overwhelming. And then you either hold on to things you shouldn't hold on to or you don't want to hold on to, or you just go, I'm going to throw it all out. And then you might regret that decision later. So it's really important to knowing when to stop. When is it enough? And maybe for some people, one tiny plastic container or one tiny little stack of paper, that is enough for that day. But we want you to do that, be happy with what you've achieved, and do it again tomorrow, and not wear yourself out completely by just doing too much for too long, being completely overwhelmed and having then decision fatigue and then go, I'm not going to come back to this for another month, because that is what we want to avoid.
I think it's interesting, Ingrid, because it almost seems like it's counterintuitive to what we're trying to talk about, because we're talking about keeping momentum going, which you would think about continuing on with your decluttering, and we're saying stop at the right time. And so the momentum is more about several decluttering projects or the continuation of your decluttering project or process then, as we like to call it. So the momentum is not just about keeping going on one day, it's about keeping going and making a sustainable decluttering journey for yourself.
Yes, Leslie.
I like that.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, very much.
Good. It's nice when Ingrid likes the things that I say. Thank you. But it carries on. We were just talking, number 7, of course, we're getting to number 7 of our list. We were talking about making the wrong decisions. And it's so important that if you are unsure of a decision, whether it's decision fatigue or not, if in doubt, keep it. Ignore that if in doubt, throw it out scenario that gets bandied around. In our world, and what we have seen and what we have seen happen in terms of people feeling in control of the decisions about the stuff that they're keeping is, if in doubt, keep it. You can always do it again on your next pass. Okay, so you're going to go around decluttering again, you're going to do another pass and you're going to look at it. You might feel stronger about it. You might have built up your decluttering muscle and feel fine about getting rid of it in a few months' time, few weeks' time, next week, whatever that might be. But never make a decision, never feel pressured into a decision, never make a decision that feels uncomfortable to you. Now, you are going to have to move out your comfort zone a little bit. So you've got to exercise a little bit of realism in here. So you've got to find that sweet spot between pushing yourself out of your comfort zone slightly, but still feeling in control of decisions that you're making. And if that decision feels really, really uncomfortable, keep it.
I so agree. There is some weird stuff out there that's being thrown about, and we're like, no. And this is, I think, one of the ones that we stand behind the most. If in doubt, keep it.
It doesn't rhyme though, does it?
I know.
If in doubt, what would be a rhyme?
I don't know.
We need a rhyme.
If in doubt, give it another shout.
Yes, if in doubt, give it a. Well done, Ingrid. If in doubt, give it another shout. I like it. There might be something that rolls off tongue a little bit better. I feel like our listeners might come up with something.
Yeah.
For us. If you can think of a rhyme for if in doubt, give it another shout, which is a little bit long-winded, tell us in the comments.
I know. Anyway, we need to go on to number 8, Leslie, because these 10 things or 10 ways podcast always go on forever. And we need to make sure that
10 things, 10 ways, 10 hours.
Yes. This is also number 8, I think, is one that a lot of people miss out on. And we know how important it is, right?
Yeah, definitely. So we've talked about things like decision fatigue, we've talked about small manageable chunks, we've talked about stopping when you feel like you've had enough so that you can then continue on the next day. And it's so important to kind of almost prepare for the worst. So in your head, you might think that you're going to come back and carry on tomorrow, but we know that life kind of throws all kinds of things to us. We might be exhausted. Someone might call in. Something might happen. We've got to go to a doctor's appointment. Who knows what's around the corner? What we need to do is we need to make sure that we can carry on where we left off easily. Because if we've got to go all the way back and start to work out, which bag was decluttering and which is for charity and which was I keeping and which was for the bathroom and which was for the kitchen, it sends you into a bit of a tailspin.
Yeah.
And you have both spins?
Both. I think both.
A spin. And so I think it's really important that you sort of put labels on. You have put a system together. I can't even think of what the word would be. For me, that would be stacking boxes. And on each of those boxes, I would have a label that says, this is what it is. This is decluttered, already sorted through, not sorted through, needs to go to charity, going to my sister, whatever that might be, needs to be repurposed, going in the bathroom, needs to be mended, needs to be fixed. Have boxes or bags of these things and make sure it's very, very clear what they are and where you were up to within that process. It's so important, isn't it, Ingrid? Yeah. We do it all the time when we're working as professionals because we might not come back to that client for another 4 weeks and we can't go back to square one again. We have to carry on where we left off. And if you have to go over things again, that's when you lose momentum.
Yeah. And I think, but even also on a smaller level, Leslie, if you do a drawer of something, make sure that you finish it. If there are a few bits that you want to throw away, put them in the bin. If there's a couple of bits for recycling, put them in your recycling bin. Don't go, I've done the drawer, and then leave all the little remnants of stuff that you didn't want to have in that drawer just then out. You have to kind of go, okay, I need to spend some time at the end of my little decluttering 15 minutes, let's just call it, to make sure, this goes in another drawer now. Oh, that needs washing up, but that needs to go here. I'm going to put that on Olio and have a little Olio basket or free cycle basket or charity box or whatever it is. You need to do all those little bits so you can really feel like, I am now finished this. And not I've done the drawer, but still now on my counters, there's loads of stuff that I still have to do something with. You have to do a bit of tidying up.
Exactly. You do. You have to tidy up. You have to prepare yourself, and you have to execute on your exit plan. Yes.
And that's really good for that momentum as well, because that drawer is done, is finished. And now tomorrow or later this evening or whenever, I can do the next thing. But I don't have to come back to a whole pile of stuff that I didn't know what to do with, or I didn't finish up.
Now, Ingrid, you kind of amalgamated 8 and 9, didn't you? Did you see that you did that?
Yes, I know.
Again. So everyone's waiting with bated breath for number 9, but we already did number 9 because we just slotted it in there. So we're going to go swiftly on to number 10.
Yes. Number 10 is take an after picture of your hard work. Take a picture of that drawer or that cupboard or that box or that pile of stuff that you're now going to give to the Goodwill or the charity or whatever it is. Or take a picture of that lovely little section in your wardrobe, that all the stuff that are now on nice hangers or something that you folded really nicely. You took that before picture. Now it's time to take that after picture. And it's great for momentum, because then you can look back and go, wow, I can see the difference now. I know why I'm doing this now. This feels good.
Yes, you have to get to that finish stage so that you can enjoy it, so you're going to carry on tomorrow. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
So momentum really is about a combination of all those things that goes all the way through the cycle, really. So starting with planning and thinking about goals and making sure the middle bit is all right with the decision fatigue and making sure energy levels are right. Making sure you've tidied up and you know where you're up to, making sure that you've sent everything off to where it needs to be, and then you can enjoy it. And the enjoyment stage of it is the very, very thing that keeps that momentum going to the next stage of your decluttering journey. Yeah. So that's why we wanted to talk about momentum. It's one of the trickiest things to have on a decluttering journey. It's one of the things that people complain about all the time, like, I started and then just got a bit fed up, and how do I keep on going? How do I keep this journey going? And honestly, the most important thing that we've spoken about in this whole podcast is break it down. Break it down small. If you break it down small, you'll keep on going and keep on going and keep on going, won't you, Ingrid?
Yeah, absolutely. So you need to tell us, lovely listeners, what is the thing you think is your hurdle to keep up momentum? What of the 10 things that we've mentioned are you like, yes, that is me, that resonates with me? Tell us, please, in the comments, or send us an email like a lovely listener did at the beginning of our session. Put a comment on our YouTube channel. We honestly read everything that you send us. We try to read everything, comment on everything, or give a thumbs up. We see it all, and we just really appreciate that. And we know that you take time out of your day to let us know as well. So, and maybe, Leslie, maybe our listeners are now thinking, I would love for them to do a podcast about so-and-so. Let us know as well. Send us an email on support@declutter.com. I mean, we're 269 episodes in, but maybe you're like, well, I've been waiting already 270 episodes for this topic, and I would love for them to tackle it. So yeah, send it in to us. We always appreciate ideas, don't we, Leslie?
That will send Ingrid into a head or tailspin because she has everything already pre-planned for them. So she's asking, but she'll be like, oh, people are asking us for these things and I've already got the stuff planned out. You think you could be flexible?
Yeah. I would be really interested to hear what people would like us to do a podcast on, because we've covered, a lot of different topics, given different spin on things. And yeah, we still love it. We love recording these podcasts. So we appreciate all of you listening week in, week out to our ramblings. And yeah, that was it for today. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.